Thank you for joining. We're going to solve together an entire past paper of the IGCSE Maths. And this is a paper 42 of May-June 2015. So this is the second paper of the extended curriculum, and you have 2.5 hours to finish it. Now, before we continue, it's important to give all credit to Cambridge examinations because they created this exam. This is not my work. We are just here together to help each other out. Now, before you start an exam like this, have a quick look at the cover page where it says, which is important, do not write in any barcodes because otherwise they can't check your work properly. You have to use dark blue or a black pen. All sorts of important information here. But more importantly even is that if the degree of accuracy is not specified in the question and if the answer is not exact, you have to give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. And if it's degrees, 1 decimal place. Okay. Before you start with an exam like this, take 1 minute and go through the exam. So that's what I'm going to do now as well. Very quickly go through the exam and have a look at all the questions they are going to ask you. So if I turn the page, I have a hard copy next to me now. If I turn the page, I see that the first question is about percentages, ratio, and I expected that because usually the first question on this paper 4 is a question like it. So I'm not reading in any detail, I'm just having a quick look what type of question. I'm turning the page again, page 4. The second question, circle theorem. So I know I can expect that. Question 3, having a quick look. I see something about probably constructing equations. I see some quadratic equation which I have to solve. So I know, okay, I'm going to use the formula probably later on. Question 4, I see sector area. I see cones, so probably some volume. And the second part, probably similarity. I'm not sure, but I think it's a question about similarity. All right. Question 5, yes, graphing question, and all the questions attached to a question like that. So I know I can really score on that one. Moving on, question 6. Typical trigonometry question, isn't it? Probably a sine or cosine rule. And the second part of the question, it's bearings. Okay, so it's really useful to have a rough idea what to expect. Question 7. Statistics, histograms, frequency density, so that is all doable. Moving on to question 8, they are asking to create some inequalities. All right, so that is going to be something probably with linear programming because you also have to graph something. Question 9, okay, that is about expressions, factoring, about the laws of indices. So I'm not sure, they probably didn't have time to ask this question on the paper 2, because usually this is a paper 2 type of question, but okay, they ask you now, so no worries. Question 10, vectors, okay, and also some matrices with transformations. Okay, question 11, all the way at the end, don't forget that one. What is that? Probability. Fantastic. So I have a rough idea now. How long did that take me? A minute, maybe 1.5 minutes. I have a rough idea what to expect. And please, you don't have to start at question 1. If you rather start with the graphing question, or if you rather start with question 3 about equations or whatever, then please go ahead, as long as you do all the questions, but you do not have to do them in any particular order. We are now going to start at question 1, and we will just move on after question 1, question 2, question 3, up till the end. Last thing I want to say at this stage is that I am Mr. John from explainingmaths.com. So please check the website. You're going to find all my resources there. It's all for free, which will help you to understand maths a bit better. Okay, well, let's start now. Question 1. There we go. So as I said, question 1 is a question about percentages and ratio, and usually that's the case for question 1, so no surprises there. That's good. Let's read the question carefully. Last year, a golf club charged $1,650 for family membership, and this year the cost increased by 12%. So it becomes a little bit more expensive due to inflation or whatever. Calculate the cost of a family membership this year. Good. So for 2 points, I want to show some working. And 2 points, it also tells me a little bit that this is an ordinary percentage question. It's not reverse percentage. So there's several ways of doing it. What do? I say, well, the price, 1,650, is the 100% value, so I'm going to find 1%, so I divide it by 100%, and then I times it by 12%. Now, I grab my calculator, and I say 1,650 divided by 100 equals times 12 equals. So the increase, let's put some units there, by the way, the increase of the price is $198, so the new price is going to be 1,650 plus 198. And I grab my calculator again. Now, there are other ways of doing this, I know that. So if you say, but I do it differently, that's fine. Use your method. Use the method that makes most sense to you. There are quicker ways than what I'm doing now, but this is the method I prefer. We all are going to get the same answer, which is 1,848, yeah? But please use your method as long as you write down your workings. Moving on, question B. I'm just going to scroll like that a little bit. The golf club runs a competition, it says, and the total prize money is shared in the ratio first prize to second prize 9-5, yeah, which makes sense, the first prize being more than the second prize. The first prize is $500 more. Okay, that's important. It's not $500, no, it's $500 more than the second prize. Calculate the total prize money, so them combined, for the competition. Okay, well, if you like, again, on my website, explainingmaths.com, I explain this in a lot of detail. But if you like, still now, I could say, well, 9 of those blocks for the first prize. So let me just quickly do those blocks there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And 5 for the second. So go to my website if you need more explanation for this. Yeah, $500 more. So how many blocks does the first prize have more? 4 blocks. Yeah, so 4 of those units, 4 of those blocks equals 500, or is equivalent to $500. Okay, you can also just do 9 minus 5, but I just want to show you in a visual way where that 4 comes from. So that means that each block, each unit, yeah, represents $500 divided by 4, which is 125. Okay, so each block is $125. How many of those blocks do I have? Well, 9 plus 5, which is 14. So 14 times 125 equals, because they ask me what is the total prize money. They don't ask me what is the first prize or the second prize. No, what is it in total? So 14 times 125 equals 1,750. Okay, $1,750. Good. So again, there are multiple ways of solving this. I chose this one. You do whatever you want, but we get the same answer. Show your working, that's important. What percentage, I'll just keep that there a little bit. Question II for 1 point. What percentage of the total prize money is given as the first prize? Okay. Again, several ways to solve it. What do I do? For the first prize, you get 9 of those blocks out of the total 14. And to give that fraction as a percentage, I multiply that by 100%. Please don't use the percentage sign on your calculator. That is just to show that we're talking about percentages. But we do 9 divided by 14 equals times 100 equals. And then my calculator. And that is, please, important. It is not an exact answer, so write down all the decimals first. Don't round immediately, because now probably in most cases you will get full score already, even if I make a mistake in rounding. Yeah, so in most years you get full score for the entire answer. So write down the entire answer and then round to 3 significant figures. So the 2 goes up to a 3 because of the 8. All right, that was for 1 point. Moving on. For the members of the golf club, there we go, sorry. For the members of the golf club, the ratio men to children is 11:2, and the ratio women to children is 10:3. Find the ratio men to women. Okay, so we have 2 separate ratios, men to children 11:2, women to children 10:3. Now, in order to compare the men to women, then let's say the amount of blocks for the children needs to be the same. Well, there's only 2 blocks here and 3 blocks there, but please realize that 11:2 is the same as 22 as a ratio to 4. Do we agree with that? But still now, the 3 and the 4 is not the same. So I'm looking for a common multiple for the kids. So for men to children, 11 to 2 is the same as 33 to 6. Agree with that? And that is a factor. I multiplied it, if you like, by 3. Okay. And for the women to children, I can say, well, that is the same as ratio 20 to 6. By a factor 2 I've multiplied it. So now I can compare those two ratios. Men to children, 33 to 6. Women to children, 20 to 6. Then men to women is, I gotta start with the men, 33 to 20. Okay, so the answer will be 33 to 20. So don't make the silly mistake that you say 20 to 33. No, because the order is important. Men to women, men 33 and women is 20. Good, 2 points. Now this question continues on the next page, but you probably already saw it. I already have it here. There we go. So question II. So this is the next page. The golf club has 24 members who are children. Find the total number of members. Okay, 24 members who are children. Now, why do I have it here? Because I need my previous question. The information anyway. So I'll make that slightly smaller. I hope you can still read it. I'm not sure. Okay, so what was the question again? The golf club has 24 members who are children. Now let's look at those ratios. If I say that men to children is 11 to 2, so these are men and these are kids, then the 22 is the 24 students, yeah, or the 24. So what am I saying? Sorry guys, I do apologize. 11 to 2, there are 24 kids. So the 2 represents 24. That is a factor 12. So that's multiplied by 12. So I can multiply the 11 by 12 to find the amount of men that is. So that's 132. So 132 men. But we also have some women. So at this stage, I'm just going to write down here that we have, will that fit in 132, otherwise I might forget. Now for the women, the ratio was 10 to 3. So I'm going to write down here ratio women to kids, 10 to 3. Well, my pen is not working properly. I hope you can read that. We have 24 kids. Will I be able to squeeze that one in? 24 kids, and indeed that happens. That is multiplied by a factor 8. So we have 10 times 8, 80 women. Okay. Well, that is a little bit, doesn't look very nice, does it? I do apologize, but I hope you got the idea. That if I have to look at those previous ratios. If I have 24 kids, apparently then that means I have 132 men. It means I have 80 women. So for women, those are the symbols for men and women, by the way, if you were not aware of that. 80, they asked me what is the total number of members. So I have to include those 24 kids. So what is the total there? So that is 104, 236, if I add that up correctly. There you go. So do not count the kids twice. So if you look at those previous ratios, do not count the kids twice. Women to children, men to children, don't count them twice because that's the same. Those are the same kids. You just have to find the amount of men. You have to find the amount of women, and plus that with 24, the amount of kids. Okay. Last question of question 1. The club shop sold a box of golf balls for $20.40. The shop made a profit of 20% on the cost price. Calculate the cost price of the golf balls. Now, 3 points. This is what we call reverse percentage. You got to realize that that the price that they are selling it for, well, the cost price anyway, is it more or less than $20.40? Yeah, so you have a picture. Try to ask yourself that question. Is my answer going to be more or less than $20.40? And hopefully you realize it has to be less. And you have to find out what is the percentage of the selling price compared to the original price. So which percentage is this of the original price? Well, they make a 20% profit. So the percentage is 100 plus 20% profit. So this is 120% of the original price. So to find the original price, I do $20.40. I divide it by 120%, because then I have 1%, and then I will times it by 100% to find the original price. So 20.4 divided by 120, I'm plugging in my calculator now, equals times 100 equals, and then it says 17. Okay, so the answer is 17, and perhaps you want to say 0, 0, because we're talking about money. So usually you give that in 2 decimal places to resemble the cents. So this price, if I would add 20% of this price on top of the 17, I get my selling price, 20.40. And that's what we call reverse percentage. So you do not find 20% of this price and subtract it. No, you got to realize that this is 120% of the original price, because of the profit is already included in that price, and then to find the original price you times it by 100. All right, moving on to question 2. So question 2, clearly a question about circle theorems. So we're still solving the entire paper 4. This is, I'm Mr. John from explainingmaths.com. So please check my website, where you'll find all my resources for free, so you will understand maths a little bit better. Now, with these types of questions, before actually diving into the questions and looking at, okay, which angles do they want me to find, take a minute or two to analyze the situation and to find out and to tell yourself, okay, what do I see? What are they giving to me? Because that will actually help you to answer the question quicker. Yeah, if you want to be quick, then take a minute or two at the beginning to analyze rather than answering straight away. What is going on? Even before reading, I see a circle, okay, fair enough, and I see 2 tangents, and then from an external point, and then I know that the length from that external point to the circumference here is the same as the length from that point to the circumference there. So that is important information. So I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to put those lines there because there's so much going on here, otherwise I might forget. Okay, I also know then that this is a kite. Yeah, because of that is a kite. So because the angle between the radius, because that's the center, the radius and a tangent is always 90 degrees. So if you like, you can put there 90 degrees. That's the entire angle. And over here, so if they are 90 and 90, so they add up to 180, that means for this quadrilateral, this kite, that they need to add up to 180 as well. So you know what? I'm already going to put here the 132 degrees. Because I will probably need it. Why 132? Because 180 minus 48 equals 132 degrees. Yeah, 180 minus 48. And as you can see, it is an obtuse angle. What else do I see? Well, I see here what I call the arrow. So please check my videos about circle theorems, which means it's a circle theorem about the angles at the center of the circle, which is always double or twice as large as the angle at the circumference. So if you like, you can already say, so this one is 132 divided by 2, which is 66 degrees. Okay, because that is the arrow theorem. The last thing I want to say, so this is the center, so you have a radius and a radius, so they are also equal in length. So I'm going to put 2 lines there now, because otherwise I might think later that they're equal to this one, but they're not. Why is it important? Because that makes this an isosceles triangle, okay, and that is probably something I need to realize. By the way, this is also an isosceles triangle, okay. Now, how long will that take? 3 minutes. All right, 3 minutes, but it will help me to answer all the questions. And probably I already answered a few questions there. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I hope you can still see it. But otherwise I have to go up and down all the time. So, okay, is that straight? Well, anyway, we're just going to start. What is the first question? Well, let's read it. In the diagram, BCDE lie on a circle, center O. AB and AD are tangents, and angle BAD is 48 degrees. Great. Find angle ABD. So ABD. All right, so that is this angle. And as you can see, it's less than 90. And we already said that this is an isosceles triangle. So those two base angles are equal. Okay, so how can I find it? Well, I can do 180, take away the top angle, which is 48 degrees, and then divide that equally by 2. And if you plug it in your calculator, you're going to get 66 degrees. I'm just going to put 66 degrees over there. Okay, so that one is 66, that one is 66, 48 adds up to 180. Angle OBD. So OBD. So this angle over here. Now there are several ways to approach this angle. You could say, well, the isosceles triangle, so 180 minus 132 divided by 2, yeah, because those two angles are the same. Or you can say, well, this is a 90-degree angle. If this one is 66, that means that that one is 90 minus 66, so 24. So 24 degrees. I'm just going to put it there. For 1 point, I don't have to write down any workings. It's either right or wrong. Now 2 points. Angle BCD. So BCD, look, it's already there, 66 degrees. Now, because it's for 2 points, I do want to write down some working here now. So I'm going to write down 132 divided by 2, because I realize that the angle, the circle theorem, the angle at the center of the circle is equal, or sorry, not equal, is double the angle at the circumference. All right, you see how that helped me to answer the question quicker. Then the last question, angle BED. Where are we? BED. I missed that one. Look, guys, there is a cyclic quadrilateral. I missed that one at the beginning. A cyclic quadrilateral being a quadrilateral where all the vertices will lie on the circumference of the circle, but because of that, the opposite angles add up to 180. Okay, so if they ask me BED, so this angle, so together they add up to 180. So this angle, which is going to be 180 minus the 66, so 114 degrees. And as you can see, indeed, it's not to scale, but you can see it's an obtuse angle. So that makes sense. Scrolling down, they say the radius, so those were the circle theorems. The radius of the circle is 15 centimeters. Calculate the area of triangle BOD for 2 points. So BOD, let's go down again, or up, BOD. Okay, so we're talking about this triangle. Okay, I will make a quick sketch of it over here. So it's this triangle. And as you can see, it's not a right angle triangle. This one was 132 degrees and the radius is 15. Now a right angle triangle, you would do base times height divided by 2, but this is not a right angle triangle, but you have learned a different formula. I'm not going to prove the formula to you now. You can go to my website, explainingmaths.com, but half AB sine C, and please distinguish between lowercase and uppercase, and that is an A, where you need to realize that the angle of your sine cannot be a teammate of either one of the lengths, okay? But as you can see, you have an angle and not its teammate. So you have the angle, you have the other two lengths. So indeed, it's just 2 points. It's not going to be the most or the biggest work for you to solve it. Half times 15 times 15 times the sine of 132 degrees equals, I'm going to grab my calculator. Yeah, so please always write things down before you get a calculator. Yeah, maths doesn't happen in your calculator. Maths happens on paper. Times the sine of 132 equals, and then you write down all your decimals, 83.60379287, and because it's not an exact answer, you're going to correct it to 3 significant figures, 83.6. Okay, and you make sure that it's nicely on the dotted line, please. Okay. Last question. Give reason for 1 point, why ABOD is a cyclic quadrilateral. So ABOD, is that right? Yeah, ABOD. Let's have a look. ABOD. Okay, so they're looking at this kite. Why is it a cyclic quadrilateral? Now, what is a cyclic quadrilateral? Is that you can draw a circle, and then all the vertices of your quadrilateral will be on the circumference of the circle. Okay. You know, in Holland we like to cycle, so we can cycle over the circumference and we meet all the vertices. Yeah, but that is not something you can see now looking at this quadrilateral. Yeah, that would be a reason if they would ask for the quadrilateral BCDE why it's cyclic, but you cannot give that as a reason for this one. But you can say that the opposite angles in this quadrilateral add up to 180 degrees, and therefore it's cyclic. Okay, so what could be your reason? You can say, well, the opposite angles, yeah, the opposite angles, or the sum of the opposite angles, but I said now opposite angles add up to 180 degrees. Well, that's a great proof. Okay, that was it, guys. We're moving on to the next question. So I'll see you there. Bye-bye. So we are doing well. Question 3, and we are solving the entire paper 442 of May-June 2015. And I'm Mr. John, explainingmaths.com. Good. What does it say? It says on the first part of a journey, Alan drove a distance of X kilometers and his car used 6 liters of fuel. Excuse me. The rate of fuel used by his car was 600 divided by X liters per 100 kilometers or kilometers. Yeah, now that makes sense because 600, let's say, divided by 100 is indeed 6 liters. Okay, fair enough. The question: Alan then drove another X plus 20 kilometers and his car used another 6 liters of fuel. Write down an expression in terms of X, yeah, so we leave X in the expression, for the rate of fuel used by his car on this part of the journey. Yeah, so this part of the journey. Give your answer in liters per 100 kilometers. And that's for 1 point, so it's not too much work involved, it's just basically just the answer. So before it was 600 over X because he drove X kilometer, so now it's going to be 600 over, what is his distance now? X plus 20, okay? That's it. So do not think too difficult of it, it's a lot of text. And it appears to be quite complicated, but just compare what they give to you first. Yeah, they give you this information first, 600 over the amount of kilometers driven. How do you say that? Yeah, how far he traveled. Let's put it that way. So now it's 600 over X plus 20. Good. Moving on. On this part, we're still talking about this part of the journey. On this part of the journey, the rate of fuel used by the car decreased, so become less. By 1.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Show that x squared plus 20x minus 8,000 equals 0. Yeah, so that's a show that question where they give you the answer basically, but you got to show that that is true. And that is, if I scroll a little bit down even further, is for 4 points. Now, if you get a lot of points for a question, that doesn't mean it's a difficult question, okay? Some students think that, like, oh, it's 4 points, too difficult, too much access, too much text, I can't do it. No, that's not why they give you 4 points. 4 points means that you are given a lot of time to answer the question because you have some stuff to write down. But it doesn't mean that that stuff which you have to write down is necessarily difficult, okay? You get my point? Just write stuff down. So what is happening? Again, on this part, the amount of fuel used is decreased by 1.5 compared to before. So if before the amount of fuel used was 600 over X, okay? So before it was 600 over X, I'm going to create my equation now. Before the amount of fuel used was 600 over X. And now for the second part, the amount of fuel used is 600 over X plus 20. And this is 1.5 less than was before. So this is more. Yeah, I used more fuel for the first part. So if I subtract the two, that then has to equal 1.5, because the difference in the amount of fuel used is 1.5. Good. I constructed my equation, but now I have to rearrange it, and then I should get this equation. Okay. So there's several ways of doing that. You use whatever you want to do, but I'm going to multiply everything by x first, because I want to get rid of this fraction. Okay. So I'm going to write it a little bit smaller. So 600 minus 600x over x plus 20. Yeah, we only multiply the numerator, equals 1.5x. And then I'm going to multiply everything, so this side and this side, by x plus 20. And to get rid of that other fraction, x plus 20. So what am I going to get is 600 times x plus 20, which is 600x, plus 1200, don't forget that. So it's also 600 times x. Oh, go away, 600 times x, 600 times 20. Is that 1200? Excuse me, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, that's 12,000. Okay, it's still early for me too. Minus 600x, yeah, because that fraction is gone now, equals 1.5x times x, 1.5x squared, and then 1.5 times 20. Now it is early, so I'm going to check that. Indeed, it's 30. I don't want to make another mistake. Plus 30x. Okay, so make sure it's 1.5x times x and 1.5x times 20. Good. That's my x squared. So indeed, it's a quadratic equation. So that is giving me some hope. Now I have to rearrange it. They equal it to 0. And the x squared term is positive. So that's what I have to do now. Equal it to 0. And I'll keep this one positive for what it is. 30x minus 600x plus 600x, yeah, I could have already taken that away, of course, minus 12,000. All right, that's what I'll get. Then I simplify 1.5x squared plus 30x minus 12,000, but it's not the same yet. It's almost the same, but this is 1x squared and this is 1.5x squared. So I have to get rid of that 1.5. So I divide everything by 1.5. Okay, so 0, I'll continue here now, equals x squared. 30 divided by 1.5 is 20 again. 20x, and 12,000 divided by 1.5. Now I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I'm expecting to get 8,000. Yes, 8,000. You know, what a great feeling is that? Because I'm getting exactly what they told me I should get. I showed it. I showed that it is correct. Okay. If it's not the same, then I've done something wrong. So I can check my workings where I went wrong. So it is the same. And then you could finish with QED, which means, well, it's Latin basically. You can check what that means. You don't have to write that down. Anyway, moving on. Solve the equation. It's a quadratic equation for 3 points. They don't say show all your workings. I do get 2 answers. You can plug it in your calculator if you know how to do that. We'll just give you your answer. You can use the quadratic formula if you want. I do suggest you actually do show working for 3 points. But, you know, easiest is factoring, okay? If you know how to factorize, it's such a great tool. 2 numbers multiplied minus 8,000. If I add them, 20. And if you try a few of them, you're going to get 100 and minus 18. And for that to equal 0, we call that the ZPP, the zero product property. Then x needs to be minus 100, or x needs to be 80. But again, you can use your calculator to do that for you, all right? So don't waste too much time on that. So that for 3 points, that is very, very generous of the examiners. Good, thank you very much. Moving on. So to the last question of this question 3. And they're asking us to find the rate of fuel used by Alan's car for the complete journey, yeah? So of both parts, and give your answer in liters per 100 kilometers, okay? For 2 points. So if I just scroll up for the entire journey, so on the first part, it used 6 liters of fuel, and on the second part, another 6 liters indeed. Yeah. So how many liters in total did the car use? 6 for the first part, 6 for the second part, so 12 liters. But how many kilometers did the car travel? Yeah, because we're finding the rate of fuel used per kilometer. Now, you just solve for x minus 100 and x is 80. And then you have to discard the negative value for this question, because you're not going to travel a negative amount of kilometers. X is the amount of kilometers traveled. So minus 100 doesn't make sense. So apparently 80 kilometers is what Alan traveled. So 12 kilometers for the entire journey. In how many kilometers did he drive? So for the first part, that is just 80. For the second part, it was x plus 20. Yeah, remember that? I'll just scroll up again to show you. So for the first part, how far did he travel? X, so 80. For the second part, it was x plus 20. So 80 plus 20, which is 100. Okay, so there we go. So plus 80 plus 20. And that will be the amount of fuel used per kilometer, because this is the total amount of kilometers. So to get it per 100 kilometers, I multiply that by 100. Good. Give your answers in liters per kilometer. Yeah, that's right. So I do 12 divided by 180 equals, and I'll times it by 100 equals. And then it says 6/2/3. Or if you like, 6.67. Okay, 6/2/3. Fantastic. We go to the next question. I'll see you there. So we arrive now at question 4, which is a question about sectors or arcs, and probably some similarity later on. So I'm still Mr. John of explainingmaths.com. We're solving the entire paper. So check my website, explainingmaths.com, where you'll find all my free resources. Let's find out what's going on. A sector of a circle, a part of the area of a circle, a sector of a circle has a radius of 12 centimeters and the angle is 135 degrees. Calculate the length of the arc of this sector. And an arc is a part of the circumference. Give your answer as a multiple of pi. Now what I just want to say before I answer it is that you really have to distinguish between two types of questions here. Excuse me, in this case they asked me the length of the arc. So they asked me what is the length of this line. But they can also ask me what is the perimeter of the sector, the perimeter. So the perimeter of the sector would be the length of the arc plus 12 plus 12. Yeah, but that's not what they're asking now. They're just asking the length of this arc. Now, that's a fraction of the entire circle. Which fraction? Well, it's 135 out of 360 degrees. So again, check my website where I explain this in a lot of detail, times 2 pi r, which is the formula for the circumference. So 2 times pi times the radius, which is 12. Okay, so then you grab your calculator. You want it in terms of pi. So we're not going to multiply it by pi. 135 divided by 360 equals times 2 equals times 12 equals, my answer says then 9. So it's 9 pi. A multiple of pi. Good. Moving on. The sector is used to make a cone. So we're taking a sector and we are folding it. Yeah. So this angle here is now here at the top. This arc now is the circumference here. We've created this cone. Calculate the base radius r. Okay, interesting. So again, this circumference used to be the length of this arc. So we can say that in this new situation that the circumference of the base, 2 pi r, has to equal 9 pi, which is the length of the arc here. Yeah? So 2 pi r equals 9 pi. So to find r, I divide both by 2 pi. 2 pi, divide that side by 2 pi. And then you get 9 divided by 2, so 4.5. So 4.5. Good. Moving on to the next question. Calculate the height of the cone for 3 points. That's a lot of points, the height of the cone, because if I make a sketch of that triangle there, a right angle triangle, height 12, and we just found out that the radius is 4.5, we can use Pythagoras to calculate the height, because we know that a squared plus b squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So I'm going to rearrange that in one go. So the height is going to be the square root of 12 squared minus 4.5 squared. And that is probably not going to be an exact answer. 144 minus 4.5 squared equals square root of that answer equals. Indeed, so I'm going to write down all my decimals first before I round. 11.12429773, and then I round to 3 significant figures. 11.1. There we go, 3 points in the pocket. Thank you, Cambridge. It says, and this question, by the way, is on this page and continues on the next page. So I have it already here, the next page. I'll grab that in a minute. But what is happening here? They say the diagram shows a plant pot, and it is made by removing a small cone from a larger cone and adding a circular base. So we have a large cone. We take away a smaller cone and we put a circular base. And then indeed, you have some sort of flower pot. Yeah? You can put some dirt in and a flower. Beautiful. So that's the situation. And on the next page, the questions will appear about this flower pot. So I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. I'm not sure if we still need it, actually. I'm going to grab the next page and make that one a little bit bigger. And I will go back to the flower pots if I have to. Okay. This is a cross section of the flower pots. That's what we just were talking about. So they, as you can see, you have the large cone, which is a triangle now because it's a cross section. They took away the smaller cone, so the smaller triangle, and then they added this circular base. Find L. So what is the slant height of the larger cone? Now this, if you see anything like this, it should trigger you to investigate whether you're talking about similarity. And indeed, this is a similarity question. Slide a little bit more space. And there's several ways of answering this question. And I will just use my way, but I'm sure perhaps I'm not sure, but perhaps you have a different way of doing it, so please use your own method. But I'm going to look at two similar triangles, which is this triangle, the big one, and the smaller one. Okay, because I can't find L in one go, but if I find this length, x, okay, then L is going to be x plus 35, because they are equal. Yeah, so if I find x and I plus it by 35, I'm going to find L, which is my answer. And again, similarity. So if I look at the smaller triangle, I say, well, x divided by, and what is the corresponding side in a larger triangle? Well, that is this length, which is x plus 35. X plus 35. Again, this is my method. This is what makes most sense to me, but there are probably 10 ways of solving this question. And then I'm going to find two corresponding sides in the two triangle, of which I know both the lengths of. And you know the base of this triangle, and I know the base of that triangle. Okay? I started with the smaller triangle here, so with x, so I have to start with the smaller triangle in the second one, so I have to start with 8 over 15. There you go. Now I have one equation, one unknown, so I can solve it. I'll do some cross multiplication. So 15x equals 8x. 35 times 8 is still early, so I'm going to use my calculator. 280. I'll rearrange that. So 7x equals 280. So x equals 40. X equals 40. That's not my answer. L is 75. Yeah, 40 plus 35. Good. Moving on. Calculate the total surface area of the outside of the plant pot. Yeah, so the total surface area of that plant pot. And they give you the formula, the curved surface area A of a cone with radius r and slant height L is pi r L. Well, that's a formula you should just know. But anyway, they give it to you. But don't be scared of those formulas. Pi r L, pi times the radius times the slant height. Now, I got to realize, how do I do I know a formula to find the curved area straight away of this trapezium looking plant pot? No, I don't. Yeah, they give me formula for cones, so I've got to probably use the formula for the cones. And then please realize the following, that if I find, oh no, I want to see the picture still. I'll squeeze it in. If I find the total surface area of the big cone, so I'm going to just write down pi RL big. Yeah, so I'm talking about the curved surface area, so of the entire cone. And if I take away the curved surface area of the smaller cone, the one they took away, small cone, so if I take away this then I'll be left with the curved surface area of that trapezium plant pot. But they added the circular base, so I have to do plus pi r squared, the area of that circle. Okay, so I'm going to work this out now, and I do realize that this r is different than that r, and the l's are different, but that's just for me. Pi r l of everything, take away pi r l of the small thing, plus the circular base. It's going to give me the curved surface area of the outside of the plant pot. Okay, so I'm going to put in the numbers now. I'm going to leave everything in terms of pi. So I don't get all those decimals at the beginning. Pi times, oh dear, I have to go back again. Let me just leave it like this. It's 15, right? The radius of the bigger one, pi times 15 times L, which was 75. Okay, that's of the big one. Let's put some brackets around that. You don't have to. Take away pi times the small one, 8 times, was that 14? There we go. And then we have to plus it by pi r squared, and that has 8. Yeah, so 8 squared pi. Okay, now I can scroll down finally. Okay, put it in your calculator. 1125 pi. Take away. Now you can already work it out in decimals, but then you have all those decimals in your calculator. I'll just do that at the end. And this is 869 pi. Good. I grab my calculator. 869 times pi, which is 2730.044016. So my final answer, correctly rounded, is 2730. Nice. Moving on. Part C, question C. It says the following: some cones are mathematically similar. Yeah, that's right. So I think we've left the flower pot now. For these cones, the mass m in grams is proportional to the cube of the base radius r. Yes, because as you have learned, if you look at similarity or similar figures, then lengths are proportional. The areas of those similar figures are also proportional, but then squared. And the volumes, so the mass, is always to a particular scale factor cubed. And then they say one of these cones, so we're talking about completely different cones than before. One of these cones has a mass of 1,458 grams and the base is 4.5. Okay, find an expression for m in terms of r, okay, in terms of the radius. Now then I've got to find that scale factor. But I do know the radius. Okay, so what can I do? I can connect. They say the mass is 1,458, and that is, the scale factor times the radius cubed, so 4.5 to the power 3. And if I work it out in my calculator, so 4.5 times 4.5 times 4.5 equals 1,458 divided by that answer 16. K apparently is 16. So how can I connect that? So m is going to be 16 times the radius cubed. Again, check my website explainingmaths.com, where I explain in a lot of detail about similarity, volume, area, and stuff like that. Two of the cones have a radii, radius, multiple of that, radii, in a ratio 2 to 3. Write down the ratio of their masses. And a radius, of course, is a length, but then their masses is going to be cubed. So what do I do? Well, if the radius, let's say, is 2, so 2 to the power 3 is 8. And for the other one, 3, but 3 to the power 3 is 27. So it's 8 as a ratio to 27. Did I select my pen? Yes, I did. 8 to 27. Now, there's another way of doing it, but just make sure that your final answer is the simplified ratio. Okay, so ratios are always given like fractions in the most simple format. Okay, let's go to the next question. So welcome to question 5 now. Still solving the entire past paper 42 of 2015, and I'm Mr. John from explainingmaths.com. Check my website, please, because I have everything you need there for free so you can understand maths a bit better. This is a graphing question and loads of points to be earned here. And as you can see, it's some sort of rational function, and it's going to consist out of 2 parts because x cannot be 0 because of this fraction. Okay, and as you can see in the table of values, you have this gray area, so make sure, excuse me, that you do not connect the 2 parts of the graph. No, you realize the graph doesn't exist where x is 0. Okay, the first question, complete the table of values. So make sure you plug it in correctly for 2 points, 1 each. Make sure you plug it in correctly in your calculator. Yeah, and there's almost, no way you can be wrong. Just especially with the negative, make sure you put in brackets when you square it, or you do -2 times -2, yeah, because that's where students sometimes go wrong, that they forget that. If you do it correctly, you get a 2 and a 7. There we go. 2 points earned. Your calculator, by the way, can even do that for you, okay? So ask one of your friends, if you don't know yourself already, how your calculator can create this entire table of values, and you can just pick out the right values yourself. Moving on to the next question. On the grid, draw the graph for -4 to -0.5 and 0.5 to 4. So make sure you respect that domain. Do not continue past these points. Now, I have already done that because it usually takes a lot of time, and I want to bore you too much. What is important, before you start, you have to carefully look at the scale. Okay, that's always how you have to start. Horizontally, each block is 1. So that makes each, let's say, tiny block, you have 10 of them, 0.1. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, up till 1. 2.1, 2.2, that is important. Vertically, each block is 5. So divided by 10, that means that each tiny block is 0.5, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, yeah? That's important because how do you get most of the points when you are graphing it? And this is for 5 points. Yeah, for 5 points, most of the points is for plotting the coordinates correctly. So most of the points you get for putting those crosses down. Okay, so you want to do that very, very accurately. So the first one, for instance, is -4, 21. So what did I do? Okay, -4, 21, so that is 20, and then 2 blocks up. Yeah, not 1, not 2.5 blocks up, no, exactly 2 blocks up, that will be 21. Let's find one more point. It says -1, -9, so I went to -1, -9, so that's 2 blocks up from -10, okay? Also, don't make any mistakes with the negatives, -1, -9. Sometimes students do -1, a +9. So just take care plotting those coordinates accurately. Good. Then you graph your function, and on the tablet that is not very easy. So I have to say the result is not spectacular. This is not acceptable. Your graph needs to go through the points. So what would I do? I would take a rubber, rub this out and do that again. Okay, but I can't on my tablet. But you should. Same here. It should go through my point. Yeah, that is all right. And then you stop here because they said up till -0.5. So do not continue here. Okay, you stop there. Good. The second part, same thing. This, I would do that again if I was able to here too. I wanted to go through my points here as well. So that's pretty rubbish, okay? But it's the best I can do on a tablet. All right, that's for 5 points. Now on the next page, you get all sorts of questions about your graph. So I'm going to make this graph a little bit smaller. I hope you can still see it. And then I'll grab the questions of the next page here. Can we read that? Well, you can't answer me, so I hope you can read it. I want it straight. I don't like it. Come on, guys. I'm moving 2 things now at the same time. How's that possible? That's my graph. Well, okay, I think we'll be all right. The first question, it says by drawing, and these are questions you are expecting to get them. So let's go for it. By drawing a suitable tangent, which is a touch line, find an estimate of the gradient of the graph at point 111. So I have to draw a suitable tangent at 111, and then I have to use a tangent to calculate the gradient. Okay, so I'm grabbing my ruler. I go to point 111, which is there. I'm putting my ruler there. I'm going to draw the tangent. And the tangent is just touching the graph of that point and nowhere else. So you invest some time to do that properly. And again, you can do that better than I can on my pad, but you use a sharp pencil. That is horrible. And a long ruler. And it just has to touch the graph over there. And don't draw a small or a short tangent. Draw a nice, big, confident line. Okay? Because you're going to need that line to now calculate the gradient. And how do you calculate the gradient? Well, the gradient is can I write again? Yeah. So the gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, isn't it? So delta y over delta x, or whatever your teacher taught you. Rise over run, some people say. So I need two coordinates. Now, they always give me one coordinate already. That's this one, which is 111. But looking at my gradient, I need to find another coordinate, and then I can calculate the gradients. So look for a nice coordinate. For instance, this one over there, which when x is 0, y is 20.5. Okay, so I'm going to use that coordinate too, which is 0, 20.5. And I'm going to calculate the gradient. So 11 minus 20.5 over 1 minus 0. And by the way, I'm telling myself, is the gradient positive or negative? Well, it's going down, so I'm expecting a negative answer. So any positive answer is rubbish. 11, take away 20.5. I'm a bit tired, so I'm using my calculator. Minus 9.5 over 1. So that equals minus 9.5, minus 9.5. Good, that's the gradient. Fantastic. Now, if for whatever reason you have a blackout and you don't know how to calculate the gradient, excuse me, simply drawing the tangent is already a point. So come on, guys. You don't necessarily need to get all the points before answering a question. You can get a point here, a point there, and that's how you pass these exams. Then they say, the equation x squared minus 2x plus 12 over x, and that is our graph, by the way. Yeah, x squared minus 2x plus 12 over x. Yeah, that's our graph. Has exactly two distinct solutions. So exactly two different solutions. Use the graph to find the value of k, of that number. All right, so this one go. Two distinct solutions. So I'm grabbing my ruler and I'm putting it, for instance, here. Oh, come on. Sorry, guys. Horizontally. How many solutions do I have? Only one, because it only intersects the graph at one point. If I put my ruler here, again, I only have one solution. If I put my ruler here, I have 1, 2, well, I have another one over there, because this one continues, of course. Okay, so where will I have exactly two solutions? That's when I put my ruler here, because then I'll have one solution here and one solution over there. Now, yeah, if you do that properly and if you have a proper look, then you'll get, I think you're going to get 6. Okay, so if you do put your ruler there, and okay, let me do that. So, and you draw that horizontal line. Okay, and now I have exactly two distinct solutions, one here, one there. So k, yeah, the constant y equals 6. Good. So I'm going to put that there. Oh, did I lose my questions now? Where are my other questions? Okay, there they are. Sorry about that, guys. Technology, not always a blessing. 6. Anyway, moving on to the next question. The solutions of my graph equals k. So the solutions of when y is 6. Two solutions. What are these solutions? Well, that is the x values. So if I use my graph, I can go down here. And I go down there. Then my two solutions, and then I look at the scale properly, minus 2.5, and the other one is going to be exactly 2. You see that? So minus 2.5 and 2. There we go. Minus 2.5 and 2 for 2 points. Good. Is it already the last question? Yeah, it is, for 3 points. The equation x to the power 3 plus ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 can be solved by drawing the line y equals 3x plus 1 on the grid. Find the value of a, the value of b, and the value of c. Okay, now that is interesting. But they say I can solve this when I draw that line, 3x plus 1. So let's draw the line, guys, 3x plus 1. And let's see what happens if I draw that line. 3x plus 1. So that has a y, I'll do it in red, by the way. That has a y-intercept of 1 over here. So you can just find a few points if you like, and a gradient of 3. 3x plus 1. Let me write it down here. Y equals 3x plus 1. So let's say when x is 1, y will be 4, which is there. And when x is 2, y will be 7, which is there. Okay, let me draw the line now. 3x plus 1, so I'm putting my ruler down. And there we go. Going back. Now the graphical solution, if I look at this line and my previous graph, would be over here and over here. And if I would continue the lines somewhere over there. Yeah? So that would be the graphical solution where the line and my function, my rational function, are equal. But that's not necessarily what they are asking. They are asking me the equation, this cubic equation equals 0 can be solved drawing a line. But I have to find out what is A, what is B, what is C. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to equal the function of my graph, which is, what was it again? Do I see it somewhere? Yeah, here we are. So the function of my graph, which is x squared minus 2x plus 12 over x. Yeah, that's the function of my graph. I'm going to equal that to that line which I had to draw, okay, 3x plus 1. And again, graphically, I could solve it looking at the graphs, but now I just got to find the values of a, b, and c. And I got to rearrange this now. So first of all, there are no fractions here with a denominator of x. So I'm going to multiply everything by x to get rid of that fraction. That's only equal if I multiply the right side of the equation as well. So if I multiply everything by x, I'll get x to the power 3 minus 2x squared plus 12. Yeah, because I multiply by x to get rid of that fraction, equals 3x squared plus x. And then I start rearranging x to the power 3. I'll skip a few steps. Minus 2x squared minus 3x squared. So that's going to be minus 5x squared. And I have 12, and I have an x here, so minus x, and then I have 12 equals 0. Yeah, that's it. So 1x to the power 3, correct, ax squared minus 5x squared, that makes a minus 5. bx minus x, so that makes b minus 1. Don't forget those signs. And what is the constant c? It is a positive 12. Okay, I have to say, an interesting question. I didn't encounter any of those before. Usually they ask for the graphical method to solve it, but now just a slight variation to that question. So that's really nice of them to keep us, let's say, eager to learn even during exams. Okay, let's move on to the next question, guys. I'll see you there. So finally we are arriving to the trigonometry type of questions. Clearly trigonometry, probably sine and cosine rule, and I really like those questions because you know you're going to get them, you know they're going to be worth loads of points, and we can all do that. Okay, so go for it. Don't make any silly mistakes, be careful for that. It says the diagram shows the position of two ships, A and B, okay, and a Coast Guard station, C. Very good. We have two lengths and we have an angle. Now the question is, calculate the distance AB between the two ships and show that it rounds to 138 kilometers, correct to the nearest kilometer. So it's very nice that they give me the answer already, because if I get anything different than that, then I know I made a silly mistake. So, you know, those examiners, they're really kind people. They want you to do really well. So So thank you for 4 points. So probably sine or cosine rule. So I'm going to have a look. How can I find AB? Well, I can't use Pythagoras theorem because it's not a right angle triangle, and therefore I cannot use, let's say, ordinary sine, cosine, or tangent. So I check the sine rule. And please check my website explainingmaths.com, where I explain this in a lot of detail. But I also can't use the sine rule because I don't have a full team. So the cosine rule is my final option. And actually I already expected that I had to use that. So I'm just going to write it down. A squared, you need to know this. So whenever your mum or dad or whoever takes care of you wakes you up in the middle of the night and asks you what is the cosine rule, you know, at 4:30 in the morning, you should be able to say a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. Okay, write it down 10 times and you know it. Important is that you realize that this length a, the lowercase, lengths, uppercase, angles, that they are a teammate. Yeah, that's the length and its opposite, the length, yes, and its opposite angle, teammates. Again, check my website. So if a squared is x squared, the length of AB, then the cosine of a, so the teammate angle for x, is going to be 101. So I'm just going to write that down already, 101 degrees. And the other two lengths, b and c, doesn't really matter in which order you're going to write it down. 95.5 squared plus 83.1 squared minus 2 times, and of course this is not going to fit now, 95.5 83.1 times the cosine of 101. I do apologize. It doesn't look very nice. Anyway, x is then the square root of all of that. So I'm going to grab my calculator. And I'm going to put it in now. You don't need a calculator before this stage. First you write everything down, because you want to get most of the points, not just the answer correct. Minus 2 times 0.5 times 83.1 times the cosine of 101 equals, okay, you want to write down these numbers. Yeah, those examiners want to give points to you, but you got to give them something in return, which are your workings. There we go. Square root of that answer equals, and that is 138.037674. And that corrected to the nearest kilometer is indeed 138 kilometers. And that's what they said. Fantastic. You know, that really gives me some confidence. All right. Moving on to the next question. The bearing of the Coast Guard station C from A is 146 degrees. Calculate the bearing of B from ship A. Okay, so I'm just going to, because otherwise I have to go up and down all the time. I'm just going to make a sketch of the picture, which you can see at the top of this page. So what is that roughly like this? And then we have B. Well, it's not very good, but anyway, that was A, or is A. That's the Coast Guard station. And B, this is 83.1. This is 95.5. And we just found AB, which is about 138. I'm just going to put another decimal there because 0, yeah, of course. Okay, 0.4. And they tell me now that the bearing of the Coast Guard station C from A is 146. So a bearing is always from the north in a clockwise direction. So from A. So they're telling me that this angle is 146 degrees. Okay, that's how he looks at the Coast Guard station. Good. Calculate the bearing of B from A. So the question is, if I do that in blue, of A, what is this angle? Okay, how does ship A look at ship B? And as you look at those two arrows, perhaps or hopefully you notice that your answer is going to be 146, and then take away this angle over here, because then I'll be left with the blue angle. So 146, take away angle, I'll call it theta. If I find theta, and if I take it away from 146, and I'll find the bearing I'm looking for. So back to the triangle, how can I calculate theta? Well, I forgot one piece of information. This is 101 degrees, so always make sure to put in all the information, also the 138, in your diagram, because then you'll notice, well, theta, I know it's teammate length, and I have a full team, so I can use the sine rule. Yeah, for 4 points, by the way. Doesn't mean it's difficult, but it means there's some work involved. Yeah, but it's not difficult. The sine of theta over his teammates, 83.1, equals, and now my full team, the sine over 101 over 138.04. Now I grab my calculator. I do sine 101 equals, divided by 138.04 equals times 83.1 equals. So I'm going to say now that the sine of theta equals 0.59. Now that's a little small for an angle, 0.59, because angles are usually larger than that, aren't they? Yeah, but that's the sine of theta. So of course you have to do the inverse of that to find the actual angle. And please make sure your calculator is set to degrees. Check that at the beginning of the exam, not to radians or anything else. Shifts in, answer equals, and then theta equals 36.22367052. So my bearing is 146 minus theta. So I'm going to say 146 minus answer equals 109. Where we are, 0.776325. It's not an exact answer, it is an angle, so one decimal place, 109.8. 109.8 degrees. Fantastic. Moving on to the next page, this question continues, and I'll see you there. So we're still doing the trigonometry question, and question C, it says, at noon, a lighthouse L is 46.2 kilometers away from B, and the bearing of 0 to 1. So you have B, you have the lighthouse there. So from the north in a clockwise direction, indeed, 46.2 kilometers away. Excellent. Ship B, it continues, sails northwest. So northwest means exactly between the north and the west. So, the line is already there. Ship B is sailing in that direction. Okay, 45 degrees makes sense, half of 90 degrees, northwest. He's going in that direction. Calculate the distance ship B must sail from its position at noon, so from this position, to be at its closest distance to the lighthouse. Okay. And how many points? Yeah, 2 points. Because it's not too difficult if you understand what's going on. Because what is the closest distance? It's always the perpendicular distance to a point. So he is traveling point B, he's traveling. So how far does he have to travel? His closest distance of this angle is 90 degrees. Because if he goes further, then his distance is going to be more and more to the lighthouse. Yeah? No, the shortest distance is always the perpendicular distance. So they're asking, how far does he have to travel for that to happen? So I can call that little part X if I like. And if you still don't know what I'm talking about, if I draw the triangle here, this is B now, and that's L. This is 46.2, and we're looking for X. And what is the size of this angle? Well, that is 66 degrees. So this one is 66 degrees. And if you stand in your corner, you have the adjacent, you have the hypotenuse. So we're talking about the cosine of 66 degrees equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So X equals 46.2 times the cosine of 66. If I plug it in, I get 18.79123291. So that is, to three significant figures, 18.8 kilometers. Fantastic, beautiful. I really like those questions. Check my website, explainingmaths.com, where I have loads of example questions for you, and I explain everything you need to know to understand maths a bit better. Let's go to the next question. So we've arrived now at a question involving statistics, and personally I don't really like these, not because they're difficult, just, I don't know, I prefer trigonometry, standing on a ship, calculating distances, seeing lighthouses, rather than talking about statistics. But, sometimes in life you've got to do things you perhaps like less or enjoy less, but that's fine, it doesn't matter. That's life. What's going on? A group of 50 students estimated the mass M of the amount of sweets in a jar. Okay, the results are shown in a table. excuse me, so 5 students think it's between 0 and 200, 9 of them between 2 and 3. Well, you can read that yourself. Now it says calculate an estimate of the mean. Yeah? And again, on my website, explainingmaths.com, I explain how to do that. Yeah? And I say, well, that's a bit, it contradicts. Calculating an estimate. Because an estimate is like as if you're estimating, guessing, but calculating implies that you're trying to do something precisely. Anyway, why is it an estimate? Because we don't know exactly what they estimated. We don't know exactly how much grams they think. It's a grouped frequency table, and therefore we'll just take the mid value of each group, and we'll say, okay, we'll work with that. And that's why it's an estimation of the exact mean, because we don't know the exact values. Okay, so write down those mid values, all right? You get points for that. So the mid value here is going to be 150, yeah, not 150, come on, what is wrong with me? The mid value is going to be 100, sorry guys. Between 2 and 300 is going to be 250, 3 and 350, the mid value is 325, 375, and there the mid value is 450. Okay, and if you don't know how to do that, just plus 2 values divided by 2. So you're going to sit in the middle. And then to calculate the mean, that's the sum of the values divided by the amount of values. So I have 5 people with 100. So I write down for 4 points, means it's not difficult necessarily, just some work. 5 times 100 plus 9 times 250 plus 18 times 325 plus 12 times 375 plus 6 times 450. There we go. And all of that divided by how much? Now take care here. If you now have to guess the answer, you would say, well, somewhere between 300. It's not going to be more than 500 then, because some students now work this out and then they divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there are 5 groups. Yeah, but hang on a minute. Your answer is going to be way too big then. You need to divide it by 50, yeah, because these are 50 students. 5 here, 18 there, 9, 6, 12. So you have to divide it by 50. And if you plug all of that in and you do that correctly, I believe you get 316. There we go. Moving on to the next question. Complete the histogram to show the information in the table. And this histogram is frequency density. And what does that mean? That means that the area of the bar represents the frequency. Okay? So for a wider class, therefore the height will be less, because 200 times, what is that going to be? Look at the scale, 0.1, so that's 0.01, 0.02, 0.025, let me check that, 200 times 0.025 equals 5 indeed. Yeah, so the area, 200 times 0.025 is 5, and that represents, as you can see, the frequency. Now, for a histogram, those bars are connected. That's important. So you do not leave any space between them. And then for the first one, so between 200 and 300, the frequency is 9. So from 200 to 300, which is 100. So you're asking yourself a question, how high should it be so that 100 times the height equals the frequency, so 9. So the height needs to be 9 divided by 100, which is 0.09. So the height needs to be up till here, from 0 to 100. Now I'm going to get my ruler, and again I'm going to try my best, because it's not easy on a tablet to do this properly. Okay, 0.09. You, with a sharp pencil on a piece of paper, should do a very accurate, beautiful job. Okay? Excuse me. There you go. You don't have to shade it, but let's shade it a little bit. Don't have to. And that's what you're going to do for the next group as well. So from 3 to 350, the frequency is 18. So from 3 to 350, so that's from 3 to 350, the frequency is 18. So the width is not 350, is 50. Times the height should be 18. Is that what I just said? So the height is 18 divided by 50. 18 divided by 50 equals 0.36. Okay, so 0.3, come on, 36. Well, 36. So where is 0.36? So that is going to be 0.3. 1, so that's going to be over there. So make sure you have a good look at the scale. Yeah, each tiny square is 0.01. There we go. Now, because this is such a narrow group, it's only 50 wide, it becomes so high. Okay, there we go. Again, you don't have to shade it. If you shade it, make sure you do it nicely. Okay, otherwise just leave it blank, please. Last one, again, the width is 50. Now we have 12 people. So if you do that properly, then the height you'll find out has to be 0.24. So you go to 0.24, which is here. So do not accidentally go to 0.25 because that will be wrong. 0.24. And as you can see, the bars are all connected. There's no space between them. Good. And you are accurate with your working, and if you like, you shade it a little bit. Okay, this question continues on the next page. I'll see you there. So we are still doing this statistics question. It says now a group of 50 adults also estimated the mass of those sweets in a jar. The histogram below shows the information about their estimates. Use the histogram to make two comparisons between the distribution of the estimates of the students on a previous page and the adults, which you can see over here. So I'm looking, so you should be comparing this histogram with the histogram of your previous question. And if you do that, then you will notice that, well, the students, you had bars everywhere, because this one is empty for the adults. So you can say that the range, the difference between the highest and the lowest value for the students is greater, okay? So you can say that students, I'm just going to say SS now, but you write down students have a greater range for their estimates. And the other thing you perhaps notice is that, well, those adults have quite high estimates. Most of them, or a lot of them, they think it's it's quite a high mass. So that's if you compare that to the students, there are only a few there. So you can say that the adults, let's say overall, or the average of the adults, the adults overall estimate a greater mass or a higher mass or something like that, a greater mass. Okay, that was statistics. I'm still Mr. John from explainingmaths.com. I'll see you at the next question. So we've arrived now at question 8, so we're almost there. And this question is about linear programming. If you have a quick look at it, you have to create and later graph these inequalities. And check my website explainingmaths.com, where you'll find a lot of information about linear programming and everything else you need to pass those maths exams. And everything, of course, is for free. Seamas sells X biscuits and Y cakes. She sells at least 100 biscuits. Write down an inequality in X. So at least means equal or more. Okay, that is important. So just take a minute to think about what does that mean, at least. That means equal or more. So at least 100, that means 100 biscuits or more. So X has to be bigger or equal to 100. Yeah, for 1 point, there's not a lot of work involved. There you go. She sells at least, still at least 120 cakes. Now an inequality in Y, so Y also at least bigger or equal to, not 100, it's going to be 120, they say, yeah? So don't make any silly mistakes like I almost did. We still have to pay attention. Then, she sells a maximum of 300 biscuits and cakes altogether. Write down an inequality in X and Y. Okay, so the amount of biscuits and cakes, so the sum of the biscuits and cakes, is a maximum of 300. So it is smaller or at the maximum or equal to 300. That's an inequality. There you go, 3 points for, not a lot of work. And then they say Seamas wants or makes a profit of 40 cents on a biscuit and 80 cents on each cake. Her total profit is at least $160. And now there's a show that question. So show that X plus 2Y is bigger or equal to 400. Okay, so 40 cents for how do you say that? 40 cents for a biscuit, so 40x, plus 80 cents on a cake, 80y, and she makes at least, so more or equal to $160. Yeah, but those are dollars, and these are cents. So let me just convert that into cents as well. $160 times 100 has cents, century. Percentage out of 100, so times by 100, 16,000 cents. Now I gotta simplify that to this, so I can take away that factor 40. So let me just say I'm going to divide it by 40. So I am going to get x, 80 divided by 40, 2y bigger or equal 16,000 divided by 40 indeed is 400. And you could then write down QED. Now perhaps you want to Google what that means, yeah, and then let us know. This question continues on the next page. Okay, so I'm going to see you there. So linear programming, we created those inequalities and I just wrote them here. Those are the 4 inequalities from the previous page. And it now says on the grid, draw 4 lines to show the 4 inequalities and shade the unwanted region. Yeah, sometimes they say shade the wanted region, but now it's the unwanted region. That's important, of course. All right, so I'm going to get my long ruler and my sharp pencil, and I'm going to try to do this on my tablet. You need to be able to do a better job. And I'm going to draw these lines. X bigger or equal to 100. That is the vertical line over here. X 100. So this one. Now I can just draw the line because it is bigger or equal. Yeah, and the equal makes that makes 100 also part of the solution. So you can just draw the line. If it would be x bigger than 100 or x smaller than 100, then you have to draw a dotted line. That means only smaller or only bigger. Now, second thing I want to say about my line, you see it's not exactly perpendicular. That's because it's quite difficult on these tablets to draw these lines, but yours needs to be exactly perpendicular, exactly where x is 100. Shade the unwanted region. We want x bigger or equal to 100, so this is wanted. Here x is bigger, so if I have to shade the unwanted region, I have to shade smaller than. And please, when you shade, it's not a piece of art, but do it relatively neatly. Thank you. X bigger or equal to 120, so again, bigger or equal, so just a line we can draw. Let's have a look at the scale. So 10 blocks from 100 to 200, so each block is 10. So I do 2 blocks for 120. Yeah, the horizontal line where y is 120. Okay, that's better. We're interested in bigger or equal, so we shade the unwanted region, which is then smaller. So a part of it is already shaded, and this is the rest you shade. Okay, next one, x plus y smaller or equal to 300. Now that's not a vertical or a horizontal line. You can that's a, let's say, diagonal line. So you're going to find a few points. When x is 100, y needs to be 200. Perhaps you want to rearrange it. When x is 0, y is 300. When x is 200, y is 100. There we go. And I'm going to draw that line. And it goes like that. There we go. And we are interested in small or equal, so we shade the unwanted region, which is that big lump over there. Okay, there we go. So we have the little triangle in the middle left, but we still have one inequality to do. X plus 2y bigger or equal to 400. So when x is 0, y is 200, so that's a point. When x is 100, y is 150. Let me do it properly. So that's a point. Yeah, sorry, it's difficult for me to see. And when x is 200, y is 100, so over there. Then we have this line over here. So make sure you do it accurately. Okay, there we go. And we're interested in bigger or equal, so not interested in everything below the line. Okay, there we go. So we have, this is also shaded, we have this figure, I'll highlight it in blue, in the middle left, this, use my ruler to do that. You don't have to do this, but this is just to show you. This part meets all the requirements of all 4 inequalities. Yeah, this quadrilateral over there. So the shading that you do that relatively accurately is important. Yeah, so do not include that little part over there. Okay. Probably have to answer a question. This is 6 points, by the way. Wow, that is very generous. 6 points. You see, another sign that these people, they want you to do well, they want you to pass, they want to give you a good grade, okay? So they're really kind people. Yeah, don't be scared of examiners. Okay. Calculate Seamas maximum profits, give your answer in dollars. Okay, so just to remind ourselves, on the previous page we said she's going to get 40 cents for an X, yeah, which is the cakes, I believe. And she's going to get 80 cents for the Ys, which are, no, those are the cakes, it doesn't matter. These are the cakes, and the X's are the biscuits. Okay. Anyway, what is important for you to realize that to get a maximum profit, you want to sell as many cakes, as many Ys as possible, because that gives you a higher profit, double the profit. So where is my Y maximum? Well, the Y coordinate is maximum over here, yeah, over there. So if I would do that in black, at this point, the Y value has the highest value, okay? So that is where I will get my maximum profit. Well, what is the Y value there? 200. So 200 Ys, and then I will sell 100 X for a maximum profit. Okay. If the question is what is the minimum profit, then it would be different. And a maximum profit. So 200 Ys. So that is, I have to give my answer in dollars. Yeah. So 200 times 80 cents. So I do 0.8 and then I have dollars straight away. You can do 80 cents and divide it by 100 later on if you want. It's $160. $160. And those 100 biscuits, they're going to give you 40 cents each. So that is $40. And that together is going to give you a maximum profit of $200. Now, yeah, linear programming, a really nice question. Check my website, explainingmaths.com. for all free resources, IGCSE, GCSE, and everything else you need to pass those exams. Go to the next question. I'll see you there. So this question is about expressions. We have to factorize something. And usually you find these questions on paper 2. Now, perhaps there wasn't any time on your paper 2 to get these questions, so that's why they've done it on a paper 4. Okay, so perhaps from now on they're going to ask these types of questions on a paper 4, which is fine. It's quite straightforward, okay, because we have to expand and simplify. So that means get rid of the brackets and then combine the like terms. That's for 3 points. So we're going to show some work. So make sure that when you expand, that you multiply both terms, yeah, by 3x. So 3x times x, 3x squared, 3x times minus 2, minus 6x. So don't forget that second term, sometimes we do. And for the second part, it's minus 2x times 3x, so minus 6x squared. But it's also minus 2x times minus 5. Yeah? So careful with those signs. That's a positive 10x. Good, then we combine the like terms. So 3x squared minus 6x squared, that's minus 3x squared, and minus 6x plus 10x, that is 4x. Or perhaps you have 4x minus 3x squared. Maybe if you want to factorize it, you could take out x. Yeah, there's a common factor there, minus 3x plus 4. You don't have to, but if you have that, that's fine as well. Factorize, okay, now we have to factorize, next question, the following completely. And you already know now, because you have studied, that this is grouping, but still ask yourself the correct questions, and I teach you these questions when you have to factorize on my website, explainingmaths.com. But now a little bit quickly, so is there a common factor? No. Is it grouping? Yes. Why is it grouping? Because we have 4 terms. So I'm going to look at group 1, and I'm going to look at group 2, and I'm going to look at the common factor. In group 1, the common factor, the highest common factor, 3w. So I'm going to take that out. Then I'll have left 2 plus y. Okay. Now I need to get the same thing in my brackets for my other group. Okay. If I take out the highest common factor here, I need to get the same 2 plus w. Considering those are 2 negatives, I have to get this negative 2x out. Not just 2x, no, negative 2x. And then I will have left 2, yeah, because minus 2x times 2, if I would expand it, is minus 4x again, plus y, because indeed minus 2x times y is going to be minus 2xy. There you go. But I knew that because that's what I was expecting. Now you're not finished yet, because then your final answer is 2 plus y times 3w minus 2x. So make sure you put that in those two sets of brackets. Some students forget that. They think they're finished here, but you're not. This is your final answer. Next one, yeah, is there a common factor? No. Is it grouping? No. Is it the difference of two squares? Yes, yeah. 4 is a square number, x squared, difference. 25 is a square number, y squared is 2. Okay, so again, if you study, you identify them quicker. So you just take the root of everything, so 2x plus 5y, 2x minus 5y, and you thank the examiner and you give yourself a high five because we're doing really well. Just make sure you don't make any silly mistakes there. Simplifying. Okay, so 16 over 9x to the power 4 to the power minus 3 over 2. So these are law of the indices. In the brackets, third law, how you multiply the index. So it's 16 to the power 1, if you like, to the power minus 3 over 2. Now, your calculator can work it out for you. So to the power, there we go. No, that's not the right button. 16, where are we? Oh yeah, there we go. To the power minus 1.5. I'm just pressing it in my calculator now. It says 1 over 64, okay? Oh, so if you like, you could do this. Minus 3 over 2 over 9 to the power minus 3 over 2 x. And then you have to multiply those indices. So 4 times minus 3 over 2, that's minus 12 over 2 to the power minus 6. Okay, there you go. Several ways of doing this. I just found out that that is 1 over 64 in my calculator. Over, let's make a big division sign there. 9 to the power minus 1.5 is 1 over 27. And x to the power minus 6 is 1 over x to the power 6. So you could write it like that. Now, you have to give your most simplified answer, of course. It also says simplify, so you can't have those fractions in your fraction. So you want to get rid of those. So rather than dividing, you do times the reciprocal. Times 27 x to the power 6 over 1. And then you check, is there a common factor between 27 and 64? If you want, you can plug it in your calculator, but you'll find out, no, there's not. So it's 27x to the power 6 over 64, okay? That is your most simplified answer. Do not leave any fractions or decimals in your fraction, in the numerator or in the denominator. Good, let's go to the next page. So this is question D of question 9, and it's a bit of an investigation, if you like, but not too difficult. What do they say? They say n is an integer, and you should know what an integer is. Yeah? That's any whole number, positive or negative, so whole numbers. Explain why 2n minus 1 is an odd number. Well, if you can say that 2n, 2 times a number, 2 times an integer, is always even. So if you subtract 1 from an even number, you always get, from an even number, you always get an odd number. You will always get an odd number. I'm just going to say, okay, get odd number. Okay, so 2n, 2 times an integer, will always be even. And if you take away 1 from any even number, you get an odd number. Look at the number line if you are confused. Write down, in terms of n, the next odd number after 2n minus 1. Okay, so odd numbers. Let's, if you're not sure, write a few down. 3, what is the next one? 5, what is the next one? 7, what is the next one? Just looking at odd numbers. So what is, how do you go from one odd number to the next odd number? You plus 2. Okay, so what is the next odd number of 2n minus 1? You plus 2. So it's 2n minus 1 plus 2 is plus 1. There you go. And as you can see, for 1 point, they're not expecting any new inventions or anything like that. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. Now for 3 points, show that it doesn't mean it's difficult, by the way, it just involves a little bit more work. It says show that the difference between the squares of 2 consecutive odd numbers is a multiple of 8. Okay, interesting. So some important information. The difference, so we're talking about minus, between the squares of 2 consecutive odd numbers. okay, is a multiple of 8. We'll worry about the multiple in a minute. So to find the difference between those two consecutive odd numbers, we'll start with the largest, so 2n plus 1. Difference between the previous odd number, 2n minus 1, but we said the difference between the squares of those numbers, okay? Because you look for the difference between the squares of two consecutive odd numbers. So you always start with the largest if you want to know the difference. What is the difference between 5 and 8? Well, the difference is 3, because 8 minus 5 is 3. So same here. You start with the larger odd number, take away the smaller odd number, but then we're looking at the squares. Okay. Expand that, and please realize that that means 2n plus 1 times 2n plus 1. So don't do 2n squared, 1 squared. No, you have to multiply out those brackets, and same on the other side. And again, for 3 points, be relaxed, feel confident, and you have to do some work to get to the answer. And apparently it is a multiple of 8. That's what we are hoping to get at the end. 4n squared, 2n plus 2n, so plus 4n, 1 times 1, minus, let's just put some big brackets there, because everything in it has to be subtracted, so 2n times 2n, 4n squared, minus 2n, minus 2n, minus 4n plus 1. There we go. So then if we simplify it, we have 4n squared minus 4n squared, so that's 0. We have 4n minus 4n, so that is 8n, that's an equal sign, and we have 1 minus 1, 0. So indeed it is 8n, so 8 times any integer, so therefore you could say, so a multiple of 8. There you go. Fantastic. Let's go to the next question. So we're almost finished. We're going to do a question about vectors now. So I'd just like to summarize that we are solving the entire past paper 42, May, June 2015. And you can find all my free resources on my website, explainingmaths.com, including everything about vectors you need to know. So for instance, this one is a PQ, and the direction is important as well for a vector. And I give you a column vector 5 minus 8, so that means from P to Q, it is, well, let's say if this is P, then Q will be 5 units to the right and minus 8 units up, so 8 units down, so Q will be there, okay? And then the direction is important. That will be 5, and that is 8. But a vector also has a magnitude, and that's what they mean here. Find the value of the magnitude, the size of PQ. And there's a reason why I drew that, because you find that with Pythagoras. You see a right angle triangle, so you're looking for the hypotenuse, square root of 5 squared plus 8 squared. So you take the absolute value, so not minus 8, no, 8, yeah, because that's 8 units, it has a length of 8. So it's the square root of 89, and that is 9.433981132. So that to 3 significant figures, 9.43. Then they say point Q, so this point has the coordinate 2 minus 3. So let me just write that there. That has coordinate 2 minus 3. What is the coordinate of point P? Now, with these questions, please, and with most questions, draw a sketch. Yeah, because what do some students do? They say, okay, to find P, I do 2 plus 5, so 7, minus 3, minus 8, so minus 11. But it's wrong, because the drawing already shows you that P is anyway higher in the y value than q and less in the x value than q. Yeah, can you see that? Because you're going in that direction. So if this is 2 minus 3, to get to p, I have to go 8 units up. So the y value is going to be 5, minus 3 plus 8. And I'm going to go 5 units to the left, so the 2 becomes a negative 3. There you go. So a diagram or a sketch will help you to never make a silly mistake that you simply add the vector to the coordinates. Okay. Moving on, not to scale, of course not. I'll make it a little bit smaller so all the questions fit. There we go. 5 points for this, guys. That's fantastic. In the diagram, M is the midpoint of AB. Okay, let me just put a little line there, exactly in the middle. It's probably important. They never give you information that you're not going to need, by the way. M is the midpoint of AB. L is the midpoint of OM. Okay, so I'll put 2 lines, and that is then 2 lines there. Good. And AN intersects L. Yeah, I can see that. And ON is a third of OB. Okay, so, and if OB is B, that means that ON is a third of B. And then this part is 2/3 of B, making it B in total. Okay, fine, in terms of A and B in simplest form, OM, from O to M. Okay, now I'd like to go straight away, but I can't because I have no vectors here. I only have a vector A here, and I have a vector B here, and I have to go from O to M. Now there are two routes you can take. Because the direct route you can't take, there are more routes by the way, but you could do this one, and then go into that direction. Then you are also at M. Or you can take this tourist route in this direction and then go into that direction. Okay, I'll do the second one. So I'll say OM, that is OA. That's the vector OA plus the vector AM. Okay, do you agree with that? Now OA is A. Yeah, plus the vector AM is half AB. Agree? Is half AB. So I have to do A plus half AB from A to B. Now, and then half it. Now from A to B, I still don't know that directly, but I do know another way to go from A to B is to go into this direction. So from A to B is minus A plus B. Minus A, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going in the opposite direction, minus A plus B. So half AB is going to be minus half A plus half B. Good. So to simplify the whole thing, it is A plus minus half A, which is half A, plus half B. There you go for 2 points. OL, the vector OL. Okay, well if OM is half A plus half B, then OL is half of that, because that's the midpoint. So half of it is a quarter A plus a quarter B. There you go, quarter B. You could, by the way, factorize it if you want to get the half and a quarter out, but you don't have to. AL, from A to L, there we go. So you can go, not directly, you can go in this direction first, which is minus A. This is for 2 points again, so minus A plus, so I'm here now, OL, and OL is this one. So plus a quarter A plus a quarter B. So if you do that properly, you get, what is that? Minus 3/4 of A plus a quarter of B. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next page. Now I was slightly confused because we didn't use a property of the vectors a second ago, but I missed this question. Find the ratio AL to AN in its simplest form. So please have that picture of the triangle of the previous page in front of you, because they also said that ON equals a third OB, and we didn't use a property yet. So I was indeed a bit confused, but here we go. I didn't see this question, so we need it now. So AL, which is your answer to question C. So let me just write down that answer again here. AL, what was the vector? Let me peek there. We had minus 3/4A plus a quarter of B. And they want you now to find the ratio AL to AN. Yeah? So first, what you need to do is to find the ratio or the vector AN. And if I look at the triangle AN, that is then going to be minus A. So minus A plus a third B plus a third B. Okay, there you go. So those are the two vectors. Now, in order to compare them, I'm going to make life a little bit easier for myself. So I'm going to rewrite. I'm going to rewrite those vectors. I'm going to say, well, for this one, that is AL. So I'm going to take a quarter out. I'm going to take minus a quarter out. There we go. And then inside those brackets, I'm going to get 3A minus B. Okay. And hopefully I'm going to get something similar in my brackets here. What I'm going to take out, I'm going to take a third out. No, I'm going to take minus a third out. And then I'll have 3A minus B left. There you go. Yeah, and now those brackets are the same. So we see that minus a quarter for AL times those brackets, and for AN it's minus a third times those brackets. And we look for the ratio AL to AN, so I can say that is then going to be minus a quarter as a ratio to minus a third. There you go. Now perhaps you didn't take the minus sign out, you don't have to, but those brackets will still look the same on the inside. But we have to give it in simplest form. A ratio also cannot contain any fractions or ratios, or decimals. So I'm going to multiply first both by minus 4, okay, to get rid of the negative as well. And if I do that, here I will have minus 1. And here I'm going to have, not minus 1, plus 1. And here I'm going to have 4 over 3. And I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of the second fraction. And then I will have 3 as a ratio to 4. There you go. And then the question continues with C, which is about transformations. We're going to make it slightly smaller. There we go. Transformations and matrices. It says on the grid, draw the image of triangle A after the transformation represented by the following matrix. Now, you approach that you're going to find the coordinates of the vertices of your shape. So what is the coordinate there? That's 2, 2. And the coordinate here is 4, 2. And the coordinate here is 4, 3. And you're going to multiply those coordinates one by one by the matrix, and that will give you the new coordinates of your image. Yeah. Okay, so I'll always do it one by one. So I'll start with 2, 2, and I'm going to write that as a column like that. 2, 2 equals, and then I multiply the matrices. So check my website, explainingmaths.com, where I explain in a lot of detail how to multiply those matrices. Now fairly quickly, minus 1.5 times 2 is minus 3, plus 0 times 2, so 0, so minus 3 over there. So make sure you've checked my website, guys, where I explain this. 0 plus minus a half times 2, so plus minus 3. So the new coordinate, that point after the transformation, will be at minus 3, minus 3. So over there. I'm going to do the same for the next coordinates. So minus 1.5, 0, 0, minus 1.5. That's the matrix. And I have to multiply that by 4, 2. And I multiply it. And then I do minus a half times 4, minus 6. Plus 0, so that's minus 6, and for the other one you're going to get minus 3. So at that point you're going to be at minus 6, minus 3. And you almost already can see the triangle being created over there, but let's do that last point as well. 0 minus 1.5, so that last coordinate is 4, 3. So make sure that you start with the matrix multiplied by the column, the coordinates in column notation. Start with the matrix anyway, not the other way around. And that will be minus 6 and minus, what is that, 4.5? Minus 6, minus 4. Is that correct? I'm doubting if that's correct, but it is minus 4.5. So minus 6, minus 4.5. There you go. And then you grab your ruler, and you should do a better job than I am. So it's a bit of an enlargement, by the way, and a rotation or a reflection. It's probably an enlargement with a negative scale factor. I'm not asking you to give this information, but the image is larger, as you can see. There you go. That's it. And do we have to, well, I don't think we have to label it, but let's label it A apostrophe. Okay. Last question here. Find the 2 by 2 matrix which represents the transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. Okay, so now they give us the transformation, and now we have to find the matrix. So it's almost the same question, just the other way around. Now, how do you do that? You're going to look, first of all, what type of transformation took place that maps A onto B. Is it a translation? Is it an enlargement? Is it a reflection? No, it's a rotation. It's a rotation, 90 degrees. So let me write that down. It's a rotation. It's 90 degrees clockwise. If you have a piece of tracing paper, you'll notice that the center is the origin, 0, 0. Okay? And it's never the most difficult type of transformation with these questions. Yeah? It's usually a rotation, center, 0, 0. Just have a look at what type of transformation is it and what is the information. Yeah, center, direction, everything else. Good. And then once I have established that, I'm going to look always for 2 points where they will be after this transformation. That is, first of all, for this point 1, 0. So 1, 0. Why can I write here properly? I probably have to calibrate it. I'll do it over here. So I'm going to do it I'll do it in blue, always for point 1, 0 first. Now after a rotation 90 degrees clockwise, this point 90 degree clockwise is going to be over there at point 0, minus 1. So that point will be at point 0, minus 1. Okay, and that 0, minus 1 is the first column of your answer of the matrix 0, minus 1. Then you always do it for this point. You're going to look, where will this point be after that particular transformation? And that point is point 0, 1. 0 in the x direction and 1 up. And after a rotation 90 degrees clockwise, it is going to be here at point 1, 0. At point 1, 0. And that's the second column in your matrix. There you go. It's as easy as that. So always check it for 2 points. First this point, and then you check where will that point be after the type of transformation, and then for that point 0, 1, where will that point be after the transformation. That's your answer. Check my website where I explain this in a lot of detail, www.explainingmaths.com. Let's go to the next question. So hooray, we've come to the final question, question 11 of this past paper. My name is still Mr. John of explainingmaths.com, so check the website for all the free resources to help you to understand maths. This question is about probability. Gareth has 8 sweets in a bag. That's important, 8 sweets. So in total there are 8 sweets. 4 of them are orange, 3 of them are lemon, and 1 of them is strawberry flavored. Alright, he chooses 2 of the sweets at random. Find the probability that the 2 sweets have different flavors. Alright, so there are several opportunities to achieve that. Now perhaps you want to make a tree diagram to help you to answer this question, because it's 4 points. Yeah? So it's quite, doesn't mean it's difficult, it just means you have to do some work for it. But if you don't like tree diagrams, you don't have to. But you have to distinguish, or you have to identify the several opportunities to get 2 different flavors. Yeah. First of all, if he would take an orange flavor, if his first one is an orange flavor, that's a chance 4 out of 8. Then his second one, for it to be different, he has 3 and 1 left, so that's 4, but only out of 7. Yeah, because he already took 1 out of the bag, and you have to multiply those 2 opportunities, those 2 chances. Yeah, but that's only one opportunity. Yeah, so if he has an orange first, 4 out of 8 times 4 out of 7 for the other one to be either a lemon or a strawberry. But he can also get a lemon first. So that's a chance of 3 out of 8. But then his second one times needs to be either an orange or a strawberry. So those are 5. For strawberry 1, for orange 1 strawberry, 5 sweets out of 7 sweets left, because also for this one of them, the lemon one, is already in his mouth. But there's another opportunity. What if his first one is a strawberry, so it's 1 out of 8, then his second one has to be either a lemon or an orange, so that's 7 out of 7. Yeah, that makes sense. There's a chance of 1, because if the strawberry is out, and there is only 1 strawberry, you have a 100% chance, to get either an orange or a lemon. So these are 3 individual chances to get 2 different sweets. So the total chance, you have to plus those individual chances, work it out, and you get 38 over 56. Now you could simplify that to 19 over 28. However, with probability, you don't have to simplify. So I suggest just leave it the way it is. Okay? Move on to the last one. Gareth now chooses a 3rd sweet. Find the probability that none of the 3 sweets is lemon flavored. Okay. So his first sweet cannot be lemon flavored, neither can his second, neither can his third. Okay, so what is the chance that his first sweet is not a lemon, if I just move up? So it can either be an orange or a strawberry. So he's got 5 opportunities out of 8 possibilities. So for his first one, that is a chance of 5 out of 8. But okay, that one is in his mouth. Then for his second sweet, there are only 4 successes left out of 7 in total, because one of them is in his mouth. So 4 left that are not a lemon out of 7 in total. And now he picks his 3rd sweet. So there's a total of 6 sweets left, and only 3 of them will not be lemon flavored. And then you multiply those 3 chances, because they all have to take place, and you get 60 over 20, no, not over 28, over 336, and your calculator perhaps already simplifies that to 5 over 28. But you don't have to simplify fractions with probability. Now, I hope this was useful, guys. We've done the entire paper. I'm not sure how long we've been busy, but you have 2.5 hours, and I know that we didn't spend 2.5 hours on this paper now, you see? So don't worry about time, you'll be fine. So make sure you write down all the workings, you think about questions before you just simply start answering them. And please like and share this if it was useful. And go to my site, you'll be surprised, all the resources you're going to find there, and everything for free. It's just here to help you. I wish you a very pleasant day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.